Greetings, greetings, greetings,
Hello, welcome,
Mr. Nick.
John. How are you?
I'm at the top of my game, Nick. How are you?
Nice. I'm. Today's a good day. I wish. I think I'm at the top, close top of my game today.
Well, there you go.
I didn't
We
sleep
should
as
have
good
a
as I.
humdinger of a show then.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. We were in the little waiting room for this, and this one crept up on us, and I was like, oh, here we are, just chatting, and
We were
next thing you know,
chatting
it's
away, and all of a sudden there
10
was 12
seconds.
seconds left before we
Yeah,
were on the
yeah.
air.
But that's all right.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back. Welcome to anybody that's tuning in live. And of course, if you're just watching this afterward, welcome. It's been 3 weeks. We took a little hiatus due to life things happening, good life things with, Mother's Day and kids' birthdays and other, enjoyable
Welcome,
things.
welcome, welcome to one
Yeah.
and all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good deal. Well, since it has been 3 weeks, maybe we just recap what we're doing in this little mini series of your modes to grief, huh? And then
Yes.
about our
And
last.
this is going to be a booklet that I'm going to publish. So, and you have asked me, what are we going to call this? We call it Mode to Grief. And I'm starting to circle around, Nick,
Oh yeah.
some sort of gardening
Hmm.
metaphor, like seeds or soil or compost or hummus or something. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
have
yeah.
the name. I don't have the name yet, but it's going to be in that genre.
There we go. I like it.
Yeah. So it's coping with grief and bereavement. Um,
Mhm.
and I don't present this series as a solution, nor as a prescription,
Uh-huh.
but I present it as invitations to navigate your predicament, your feeling. You know, you lose someone close to you, they die, and you have this terrible feelings, and you don't know what to do with yourself. And people all over North America and Europe are asking, "How do I do this? I don't know how
Mhm.
to do it." And they have questions and thoughts, and through no fault of their own, I would say they're grief
Yeah.
illiterate. We live in a grief phobic culture. And so the culture around them doesn't want them to go too deeply or wisely into their grief. They
Mhm.
want them instead to get over it. There's
Mhm.
kind of a respectful silence for 2 months and then please get over it. Um,
Right.
I don't mean to sound too harsh, but that's been my experience of being at this for 14 years.
Yeah.
And so I've come up with these three aspects um, of how to cope with it, and they're sort of chronological. Triage phase, um, as you know, Nick, being a nurse.
Mhm.
I almost as you nurse know, Nick. As you know, Nick, being a nurse,
Right.
triage is when you've had a car accident or something and you
Right.
need immediate medical assistance. That's what it is.
Right.
They stabilize you. You know,
Mhm.
social worker or the chaplain holds your hand. Medication to stabilize your body and splints and stuff is put on you.
Right.
Um, am I missing something in my description of triage, Nick?
No, no. That's how I mean, of course it resonates with me being a nurse. Um, but yeah, I think it's that. I mean, yes, we think of it in the medical term of triage, but um, it's kind of what you need in that immediacy. When you're flooded with
Yeah,
so many different things, it's keeping it simple, focusing on that the littlest things you can do when it feels like the littlest things you should do or are trying to do are the hardest things,
Right.
and celebrating
Sure.
those little accomplishments, things that maybe come as part of the activities of daily living, right? Like
Yes.
getting up and brushing your teeth and putting on your socks and shoes, and it's like, okay, that was hard, but pat yourself on the back because you did it, and give yourself those wins, and kind of build yourself up and give yourself grace. And it's a good tool to have.
Lovely. First
Yeah.
aid treatment for your broken heart and your traumatized spirit.
Mhm.
Stabilizing.
Yeah.
Secondly, is ceremonial honoring of yourself and your lost loved ones. This is a little more, uh, the triage is first 6 months to a year,
Hmm.
where you're just astonished by the absurdity of your loss. You can't get over the fact that you'll never see them again. Ceremonial honoring is you're not in the initial um, shock, but
Hmm.
you're still deeply aggrieved. And so there's ways to help yourself kind of cultivate a long term, in depth relationship with your loss.
Yeah.
So triage might be make sure that you're getting plenty of water, get as much sleep as you can. Movement is medicine, so get out there and walk. Ceremonial honoring might be um, to light a candle on the deceased's birthday or on the anniversary of their death, to go visit the grave and take off your hat and put flowers on the grave.
Hmm.
Ceremonial. Play their favorite song and just sit there and listen to it mindfully. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and then, thirdly, is what we're going to get to today,
Yeah.
um, meditative self healing.
That's a
So
lot to unpack in those two words.
that's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
That's a lot to unpack. Yeah. Yeah. So, um, would you like me to begin reading this, or do you have anything more to say?
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to this. I've talked to you a lot in our works together and projects with this these episodes, as well as your book and audio narration. And I, in your literature and discussion with you, I've always admired this this commitment in you have to this practice of meditation. And I think what how I knew we could be friends is when you told me that, oh yeah, meditation, sometimes, yeah, your mind is gonna wander off, or you're gonna have you're gonna play a bunch of things in your head, and maybe the majority of what you run through doesn't feel like meditation. But there's going to be some good insights. There's going to be some moments where you're truly in a meditative state. So I think I was like, oh gosh, because when I hear meditation, I think that's a lot.
Yeah.
I can't sit still with very often sometimes, and depending on your personality, that can be really hard when you're just like a go type person, or you have a lot of anxiety going on. How you just shut down all that hyperactive noise in your brain. Um, and then there's, like what I've taken from your words and others is it's okay to let those persist a little bit, as long as you're still sticking with it and cultivating that mindset. So I'm excited to learn a bit more about your approach that has worked for you, and how you can pass it on to others. So I'm
I'll
excited about
say,
it.
yeah, I'll say a little bit more about that.
Okay.
The mind wandering type thing. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that's a really good um, opportunity to learn about yourself. When I realized that I've been daydreaming for 20 minutes while sitting on the meditation cushion, I don't shame myself.
Mm.
I pat myself on the back for realizing it
Yeah.
and say, "Oh, yeah, okay, I'm back now. I'm back now." And then I also pay attention to what I have, what my mind has wandered to.
Mm.
Um, oh, this is my mind. I'm learning about myself. Listen to the tape that I am playing.
Right.
It's now conscious because I'm sitting here meditating, and this goes on when I'm driving the car. I
Hmm.
am um, thinking about how this baseball team could be better, about how a particular politician should be in prison.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you're like, oh gosh, this doesn't feel like it's really good for my self healing at this moment, right? Like, yeah.
right, yeah, an argument with so and so.
Mm. Hmm.
There's all kinds of things that my mind goes to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is what I'm obsessing over. And the
Yeah.
more I meditate, the more free I get of that. But I also, when it comes, I don't get upset about or shame myself. I go, there I am playing the tape again. There it is.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. I think
fine.
that's a good point. Like not uh, to sort of, I mean, you can go different ways. You can embrace it and accept, oh, I did that. Good
Mm-hmm.
for noticing. Um, you know, uh, you could also, if it's something you can't seem to shake, you could find a way to integrate it, right? Like, you know,
Yes.
if it's that much of a thought, then it's like, okay, well, what if I said rather than meditating about this tranquil, peaceful clouds floating by, whatever that
Yeah.
you're trying to cultivate this vision that's relaxing for you, well, how do you integrate this thing that you can't seem to shake out of your mind into that scene or whatever it is that brings you to a place of peace, so that then you can let it go. So yeah.
Precisely. There's the whole spiritual tradition called Tantra, which in
Uh-huh.
America we think of as being a method for sexual
Yeah, sexualized, yeah, yeah.
bliss, but it's actually doing exactly what you're talking about. It's using the mud and dirt of life as your meditation.
Mm.
Okay, young man, I'm
Yeah,
going to
let's get into it.
begin this. Hallelujah. I've written it, so I have to put my glasses down so I can read it. Well, we've looked at the aspects of the triage phase, the first aid treatment of your broken heart and traumatized spirit, and of the ceremonial honoring of yourself and your lost loved one. That's a lot of concepts and suggestions to take in and remember. I hope it's not an overwhelming number of them. Next up, and finally, comes the meditation aspect. Miriam Greenspan, author and therapist, had a notable fact regarding her life, namely, that she was conceived in the middle of the Nazi Holocaust. Imagine that. Yes, right there in Buchenwald death camp, her parents conceived her. She was born in early 1946 after the surviving Jews had delivered into a holding camp. They were delivered into a holding camp sponsored by the victorious Allied forces before her parents made their way to the Bronx in America. She had lost all four of her grandparents, all of her aunts and uncles and cousins to the ovens of Hitler. In other words, her earliest hours and days and weeks were filled with historic agony of grief and horror. Her parents and everyone around her were traumatized and devastated. She was born into a world of grieving, like a fish is hatched into a world of water.
Mm.
Miriam and her parents then came to America, where Miriam's father got a job which kept him out of the house for 80, even 90 hours per week.
Wow.
So Miriam was primarily alone in an utterly strange land with a mother who was shattered and bereft and tragically lonely. This was Miriam's earliest memory, her crying mother in the absence of extended family, and such was the nature of her upbringing. Miriam Greenspan is therefore, I suggest to you, uniquely equipped to speak and write about grief. She grew up to become a psychotherapist, specializing in women's issues. But her apprenticeship to grief was not yet completed. She gave birth to a beautiful son, Aaron, who was soon diagnosed with a life-threatening illness. After a harrowing month in a Boston hospital, Aaron died in his infancy. So Miriam had more voyaging to do on her journey with death, bereavement, and grief. After years of grappling with her multiple and profound wounds, Miriam wrote a wonderful book called Healing Through the Dark Emotions, which I have read closely twice, and which I have given as a gift twice to people who found it to be helpful. Miriam Greenspan, Healing Through the Dark Emotions, with a subtitle, The Wisdom of Grief, Fear, and Despair. I find it to be greatly helpful. And from this book, I have derived the meditative practice I am inviting you to join me in just a moment. You are invited to enter into this meditation, and if you don't want to, that's perfectly all right. If at any time during this meditation it becomes uncomfortable to you, it's also perfectly all right for you to quit and sit quietly. So, what I am inviting you to do at this time is to close your eyes halfway shut. I'll invite you to do that, Nick, and we've got two watchers. All right. Close them just enough to alter the light that is surrounding your sight senses and allow you to focus inward. Eyes halfway shut. Very good. Now, if you're engaging this, I invite you to hold your hands over one another and place them over your heart. Very good. It brings your attention to the presence of your heart as a source of great intelligence, even genius for you. We overlook the intelligence of our heart, but we don't have to. Eyes halfway shut, hands folded together and placed over our heart. And next, I invite you to gently, but with strength, draw in a breath that goes all the way to the bottom of your lungs, to your diaphragm. Take roughly 5 seconds to do so. Hold the breath there briefly for a second or so, and then exhale. Gently, but with strength, until your lungs are thoroughly empty. Hold your lungs empty for a second or so, and repeat the inhale. As you settle into this pattern, gentle but strong inhalation for 5 seconds, holding full for a second, gentle but strong exhalation for 5 seconds, holding empty for a second. I invite you to think of this breathing. Hands over your wounded but wise heart as your body's lullaby. Yes, deep and rhythmic breathing as your body's lullaby. And the quality of your attention to this process is what truly matters. Let the quality be gentle, open to enchantment, as if from a lullaby. I'll be silent for a few moments and let you do your breathing, and then we'll introduce a second process. Great, you are doing wonderfully. Now, the second process, with this first gently rhythmic breathing as the anchor, is called loving kindness meditation. And still, with eyes half closed, still with your hands folded gently over your heart, still breathing in and out gently but strongly, I invite you to envision yourself wounded by your loss. What image presents itself to you of yourself wounded by your loss, sitting a few feet away from you? Can you see yourself with a cloud of grief over you, with a lead apron of sorrow weighing you down, with an iron ball in your throat, drenched in tears? Have a little compassion for yourself in your grief. I will let you settle in with that image that you have conjured, to let it sink in of how much you hurt and how much compassion you need. Next, I invite you to imagine your grief over the loss of your loved and cherished one as a black cloud within the wounded image of you which you are looking at. So you're looking across over at yourself, and a black cloud of grief dwells within you in your grief, and it hurts. And now comes the decisive move. I invite you on your next inhalation to breathe in that black cloud of grief from the image of wounded you into yourself, which sits here today doing this exercise. Remove that black cloud of grief from yourself. Inhale it all, and once it gets inside you, mix it with your best intentions, your character and spirit, your enchanted lullaby, and transform it into fresh air that smells like your favorite scent. Ah. So across from you sits an image of your wounded self which you have conjured. I've invited you to envision a black cloud of grief dwelling within you in your grief. You breathe it into your current so-called real self and mix that cloud with your best intentions, your character, the enchanted lullaby which you are now experiencing via rhythmic breathing. That black cloud transforms into fresh air that smells like your favorite scent, be that pine or lilac or lavender or whatever. And you breathe that fresh, light-filled air back into your wounded self to begin the meditative healing. I will let you sit with this a little while, repeating, send that deeply fragrant, light-filled air as a healing power back into your wounded self as such, singing a lullaby to you. And now you can open your eyes all the way. Take your folded hands off your heart. Say goodbye to the image of your wounded self which you have conjured, and come back to this space. You've been meditating, Nick. Thank you. You can repeat this process as often as you like, for as long as you like, scaling it up or down to fit with your convenience. But consistency in doing this meditative practice is what helps. I'm reminded of a story I once heard about the Dalai Lama in conversation with a gathering of Westerners from America and Europe. I think highly of him and the wisdom he shares, so I attend closely to anything he teaches. Someone asked him a question, which is on the minds of many of us these days. The man shared that he struggled with grief, loneliness, and fear on a daily basis. He wanted to know if His Holiness had anything to share that might help him in his quagmire. The Dalai Lama looked at the man with empathy and concern. He then said, "If you are struggling with grief, loneliness, and fear, help someone else who is struggling with the same. Make it your mission to lighten their load, and this will help you in the process." I love that and find it to be true. Sometimes a way to strengthen our own coping abilities is to help others who are also in the struggle. And sometimes that is accomplished through the simplest and rarest of gifts, listening fully with empathy and care, healing what they are sharing and acknowledging your feeling, acknowledging the space between you and the speaker as a place filled with love. You are on a painful journey. God, as you understand God, or your higher power, or the love intelligence of the universe, or the nature of nature, however we want to phrase that ultimate source energy, is with you and in you. If you are an atheist, the community of humans is with you. The journey is painful, but it yields soul and awareness of your interconnectedness with others. It yields a new and stronger version of you. You can help it along with triage tactics, ceremonial observance and honoring, and meditative practice, such as we have practiced here today. And finally, don't stuff your tears back when they want to come out. Let them erupt in all their healing glory. Thank you for listening. Nick, I'm so curious because I looked up at you and you were pretty immersed in it, seemingly so.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I had, I think you there. I've, whew, I've,
Good, good. That sounds good.
yeah, yeah, right. Um, so I think I've revealed myself to probably be a proponent and advocate for mindfulness practice, meditation, but
Yeah.
also discouraged or yeah. And I didn't think I was going to be that immersed into it today myself.
Oh, so you
Yeah.
said you're a proponent of
Well, I mean,
mindfulness, but also
like
just
I think of
discouraged.
it like, oh, we talk about as there's a lot of that self care, mindfulness that
Right.
people talk about. These are the buzzwords that are really common in mental health talks and circles and anywhere today. And and yet I also recognizing whether you're looking at journals of medicine or um, subjective reports from people who benefit from meditation. I've
Yeah.
always found I'm like, is it for me? Is it something I can really cultivate and do? And I really that was a really beautiful exercise. I I'm a very big oversharer. So, hey, world on YouTube, I'm going to overshare. But I deal with a lot of anxiety of my own and racing thoughts, things like that. And I think the combination of the setup there, because I often think of breathing as a big piece of it, but I never think about what to do with my hands. Like even before you started that, I was already like fidgeting down on my legs. I'm like, do I lock my fingers together? Do I put them somewhere? And so just having that like this thing where it's kind of like, well, you're using muscles, you're holding a pose, an intentional position, and you're not left to wonder what to do with those. And you know, sometimes your fingers wander, and then your mind follows it. So I found that to be really helpful. And then I often think of meditation with closing my eyes. And I slipped in I found myself slipping closing my eyes because it took a lot of concentration to half close. I've never thought about half closing my eyes. Like, oh, like you either you close them or you just let them
Yeah.
drift. If you're tired, you let them drift. And so I found that really hard to just get this half open, this little bit of light. And but what was cool is the minute I was focusing on that, the minute I was thinking about my heart beating underneath and really being in tune with it, and then you had me doing the breathing, I wasn't thinking about any anxious thoughts anymore. Like it, it, it worked. I mean, like I said,
Yes.
um, you know, maybe I've had a little air of cynicism with regards to meditation working for me, um, but that that brought me in. Um,
That's beautiful.
and then the imagery part was good. Now, when you say a lead bib, you know, me being in medical field, I'm picturing that thing they put me in. Either I've worn while I'm, you know, caring for a patient that's going to a procedure under imaging and scans, or I get it draped over me at the dentist's office, whatever. Um, so that was I could really that resonated. I could picture that weight of it, um, the
Yeah,
ball,
yeah,
the weight in the ball in the throat, just being, you know, just all that emotion, all that feelings that were locked up somewhere between the chest and the throat, and bottling you up and creating tension. Um, it was easy to picture that as and recognize myself in that. Um, it was a really beautiful experience, and honestly, I didn't want it to end.
yeah. Oh, beautiful. Wow, Nick. That
Yeah,
is so great. Well, you can resume it tonight.
I definitely will.
Yeah. Did you
And
see?
it's funny because I was like, oh my gosh, if he ends this soon, I might actually start tearing up.
Oh my
Um, and then
goodness.
and then when I looked at the end, you're like, don't stuff your tears back down. I'm like, oops, I guess I should have read ahead. But yeah, I felt as I'm sitting there trying to focus on my eyes being half open and being really immersed in it. I felt, I, you know, I maybe it's just allergies. I don't know. But no, I got misty eyed. So that was,
That's so great. That's so, and you saw yourself across the way
yeah.
as a grief-filled person.
Oh yeah. My hair was unkempt. It was like I joke around. I look like when I haven't I'm just having a lazy day. My kids tease me. They're like, "You look like," you know. My wife says Kramer from Seinfeld, and my kids say Marv from Home Alone, one of the bandits. And his hair's all wild after he gets like, you know. So it's like, and I just pictured that, and like, you know, no motivation, kind of wearing the same shirt for 3 days, puffy eyed, just the look of defeat. Like, totally could picture it. Yeah,
That's so beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah. That's
So that went
great.
really well for me. That I really appreciate that experience.
I'm so happy. That's so
Yeah.
great. And for me, when I first started doing this, 20 years ago, uh, it's called loving kindness meditation here in America, but in where it was started, it was called Tonglen.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a Tibetan practice.
Ah,
I found it to be too awkwardly intimate.
that particular one.
That
Not
not
that.
this one today, but
Oh,
when I first started doing it 20 years ago, I was
got.
like, "Oh man, my pain. I don't want to look at that today."
Oh, I definitely felt like this was intimate.
Oh
So
yes, yes,
yeah,
yes. But the
yeah.
first time that I did it, the first time that I did it, I was on I was not used to doing it, and so it was a
Uh-huh.
little bit awkward and uncomfortable to
Yeah,
look at my grief like that.
I
But
see.
then it just became real good. I liked it so much better when I would do it with somebody else
Uh-huh. Yeah,
because then I'm not admitting my own pain.
that makes
You know, it's
sense.
so much easier to be the doctor than the patient.
That's true. We are. I'm a way better clinician than I am a patient. That's for sure. Um, I'm pulling up the chat here. I'm going to copy your questions that you have here. I think you just asked me a couple. Let me see what we have here.
Yes,
We've covered here.
great minds think
So
alike. I was just thinking about them too.
okay, so yeah, so I think we covered one of the. There was only three little questions here, or with sub questions. So I'll put those in the chat. But yeah, you that was my experience, and definitely this practice is something I could do. Um,
That's marvelous. I'm really
yeah.
happy. We have
Now,
two
now I want to.
viewers.
Now I'm looking on Amazon for my cushion. I'm ready to go guru with you. Uh, actually, um, I wonder I mean, curious mind here. How comfortable are they? As far
Very.
as
I bought mine in
yeah.
Cambridge, Massachusetts. Here, Lexington, Massachusetts.
Okay.
And this is on a little stand too. It's
Oh,
called um, Dharma Crafts,
okay.
and I
So you have it
ordered
on a
this
little stand, so you don't have to go quite as low to the ground. Like as far
exactly
as yeah. So you have your knees are not. Yeah.
this thing.
Okay. Gotcha. Cool. Okay. I like it. So it's a mat plus a zafu.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's from Lexington, Massachusetts. I bought that at 97.
Oh, wow. That's
Just
pretty
a
cool.
second, there's
You've
music
had it.
playing in the other room. I'm going to go turn the music off or turn it
No
down.
problem. I'm gonna put these questions in chat here then.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, let's switch over and well, we are just waiting for John real quick to take care of something at the house, and I will put these questions in the chat for anybody watching live or doing the playback, and you can kind of follow along. Think about this practice as well. So, um,
Sorry, Alexa started playing music
oh,
down here.
be careful. We call her "She Who Must Not Be Named." If you're a Harry Potter
We
fan,
do too.
yeah, yeah, nice.
Exactly.
He who must not be named. That's what we say.
Yeah.
It's kind of yeah. Only unlike Voldemort,
Right.
I don't know that he was actually ever listening.
So uh, we have two people
Two
watching
viewing.
this.
Okay, yeah. Let's
Do you see
see.
the names? You don't. The second
No,
one
I
you don't see.
don't see. It could be anybody who just follows the link, and they could be viewing it from any account, or
I
I
see.
guess like not even logged into YouTube. Um,
Oh, I see.
yeah. So
Okay, so
um,
the questions that we have are, how did that meditation go for you? You already answered that one.
yeah. Um, I that that was a really positive experience for me, and I can't say that about meditation all the time. So,
Yeah. Oh no. Right.
but
It
for
can
me,
be
I
quite the
really enjoyed
struggle
that.
because meditation has an image of being navel gazing and bliss, but you're downloading your actual mind process and taking a look at it, and that's not necessarily comfortable.
Right.
Uh, so here's the second question.
Okay.
Would journaling about your meditation experience be helpful to you? What might you write?
With journaling about the meditation. Oh, Um, yeah, actually, that would. Sorry, I was trying to put the comments up here, and that was an example. So, with journaling about it, that would, I think, eventually.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, I like to journal. I've recently discovered, and I'm sure there's people who are like, "What? You're just now discovering this after 15 years of iPhones?" Um, but I recently discovered that the simple little notepad in my app or whatever in my phone is amazing because I don't. I
Oh,
mean, I like to write stuff and journal. Like, there's something about that that feels good, but I've started to write things down, and I don't know if you're a fan of Brene Brown or anything. I know, you know, she's a very popular therapist, social work. Lots of books written or whatever. But one of the things that I remember that stuck with me in some book, one of hers was this: when you're flooded and you're dealing with something, it's called my shitty first draft. And and for whatever reason, when by calling it the shitty first draft, it it helps me to stop being editor while I'm writing something. And so between that and the notes app, and thinking of this as like, this is just something you're doing. It's not even exercise. You're just typing freely. It's kind of like that rant post that you want to respond to someone on social media with, but you don't post. It's like kind of the same idea. Just go in and be like, I'm never going to post this. It doesn't mean it doesn't have to go anywhere. But I would do that with this exercise and what I experienced today with the meditation. That yeah. But I think
beautiful.
I would need to get not to feel like I'm taking on too much because that's the other thing. Some of us are. I don't want to say lazy, but
But
but I if I'm sitting here going, oh, I'm going to make time for this practice of meditation, and then I'm like, oh, and now I'm also going to make time for journaling about it. I'm going to pick and choose
yeah,
my battles for a while.
yeah,
I'm gonna be like, I'm
100%
gonna
you
work on this meditation, but once I get it, I'm gonna be like, well, how do I integrate these? How do I take my lessons, the teachings of this experience, and manifest them and visualize or actualize them, and what's the next piece that helps with that? Applying those experiences from meditation to life and practice. So I think journaling would be a good first step, and maybe the only step you need to do. I don't know. What I
yeah.
mean, do you journal?
I do no longer do. I used to journal voluminously, and I
Uh huh.
somehow inexplicably stopped.
Hmm.
I have things that I write down. You could call it unofficial journaling, but
Yeah.
not very often. Not. I have a little record keeping that tells me how much I've meditated, so I don't lie to myself about how much I do it.
Oh,
Um,
I see.
that's quantity, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to put these questions one at a time. I just realized that's probably what has happened here is that I'm putting like YouTube doesn't let you post too long of comments. So I think that's why. I was like, why are they not popping up here? That's technical difficulties. Thanks for bearing with us.
It's all good. And so the people that are watching this can share if they want to online
All right,
here.
there we go. First one. Now let's do number two. So, you used to journal, and what brought you? Where does journaling sit in your self care, bereavement? Because I mean, you're getting you practice the bereavement, the loss, the grief to an extent with every family, every um, everyone you befriend in the journey of hospice chaplain, right?
Hmm.
Um, So where does journaling sit in your toolkit these days, in general, not just about your meditation?
Yeah, I don't journal.
Yeah.
I did for a long time. I started when I was in India, and I found it to
Mm.
be a really self-deepening experience. I was over there in the 80s working with Mother Teresa. Have I ever told you that?
I think you mentioned it once, and
Yeah.
yeah, interesting. So you
So
worked with
yeah,
Mother
so
you worked with Mother Teresa.
I
Oh my
did.
gosh.
Yeah, and so journaling was a really, really, really worthwhile to me,
Yeah.
and I kept journaling for probably a dozen years.
Okay.
Well, okay, I just remembered when I stopped. My wife passed away, and so my whole life shifted then. I was a big
Mm.
weightlifter at that time.
Oh, were you?
Um, yeah, and I haven't. I don't weightlift hardly at all anymore. Um, and I stopped journaling. I was suddenly a single parent of two running a church.
Wow.
That was enough.
Yeah.
So it faded away, and I've never returned to it.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it did. I found it to be sort of an acutely strong method of self awareness at the time.
Oh, definitely. I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes it's for me a way to put my thoughts out and to sort of, I don't want to say filter, but make sure that what I may be communicating, I've thought it through,
Yes,
because I have a tendency to
that's
just
it, man.
let my thoughts fly, and I don't always they don't always necessarily land. I think I've mentioned this before. One of my best friends, when I say things and we talk like just randomly, um, I'll make some interesting or thought like weird connections and thoughts, and he's just like, "Yeah, I'm in a conversation with Nick. I have to change my mindset here for you, and I got to pull out my what he calls the Nictionary, um, and it's like I got to mentally
That's
prepare for this
great.
because he's
I
going to
love
be.
it. I
It's like
love it.
I'm gonna miss the connections or the thoughts he's trying to like put together here in what is probably a very beautiful way, and I'm gonna miss it and not appreciate it, or I'm gonna just yeah. So
I
that's
love it.
kind of
The dictionary.
the dictionary. Yeah.
All right. So
Um,
we've got. Oh, go ahead.
yeah. So we talked about the journaling, but what might you write? So the Dalai Lama's counsel to a struggling man.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, if you're struggling with grief, loneliness, and fear, okay, yeah, I did have that something did touch me or resonate with me there, and that was I tend to be the, and this is crazy, and I think this goes back to what we talked about several episodes back, of being part of a club. Um, and taking each other in your club, your community that you've now joined in this club of people who it's a passage into this enlightenment, this knowledge.
Nick, you've cut off.
Oh, have I? Uh-oh.
Yeah, you stopped for a minute.
Did I?
You
Oh boy.
said this enlightenment, this knowledge, and then
Okay.
you stopped talking.
Yeah. So, well, I'm not sure if it lost on the stream or just on your end or my end, but I'll repeat just in case. So yeah, part of this club, part of this knowledge, and experience. And when you look at it's this idea of this peer support, and that model works so well, whether it's grief or um, disease conditions, weight loss. I mean, you have these people who want to build each other up and have coming from a place of being genuine, authentic, lived experience with it, and I mean, I feel like one might think you're avoiding processing your own grief and your own bereavement by
Ah,
focusing on somebody else's,
yeah,
but at the same time, it's this idea that you're integrating the stuff you're learning, the insights. So,
yes,
um,
amen. You're
yeah,
helping others while helping yourself simultaneously.
exactly right, and that's okay. I mean,
Oh yeah,
yeah. I mean, yeah, if somebody's doing it for purely like, oh, helping others and completely altruistic, that's great. Good for them. But it's okay to be benefiting equally in the process of doing it as the person. Um, yeah.
1000%.
Um, and then the other piece of that is I learn by teaching. I
Oh
yeah. I mean I know a little bit about something, but then until I teach it, I just that's when I really cement it and I even tweak it where it's like, wow, I didn't do any of the things I've actually I'm teaching. I've done none of it. The real application of it, I'm just teaching it, right? Um, and somehow I'm becoming more and more knowledgeable and finding little better tips and improving it without
yeah,
even living the teaching necessarily. So
I can relate. I can relate. That's
yeah.
what I'm doing when I'm doing this podcast. I'm learning from what I'm teaching.
Oh, that was a thought I lost on journaling that I wanted to come back to. Um, and it's also kind of a plug for you. So you're writing material that is for this podcast for
Yeah,
episodes. You've written a book of experiences.
yeah,
You kind of brought it all together, and I mean, and I narrated a young man's story memoir about his childhood trauma experiences with abuse. And
you
during
told me
my
you were going to do that.
yeah, and I had a follow up after I narrated his short 1 hour book with him, and I talked about journaling as a healing, or even just writing these books, how that helped him in healing, right? Um, and so yeah, one person's journaling may be someone else's creative writing
Yeah,
or
exactly,
script writing or
precisely.
novel writing. Um, so
Or workbook writing.
yeah,
This is what the last 3 weeks that we've done this, or is it four? Um, it's going to be a book.
yeah,
It's going to be a
awesome.
workbook.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah,
You said
yeah,
you're working, it's kind of already a pamphlet. You've already shared with several families in the phases
yeah.
of triage, in ceremonial, and maybe ready for, exploring mindfulness. Have you ever done your meditation that you just presented today in with families in the state of grief? I mean, like loss and grief.
I have, and I had the foresight to wait and not present it as a triage
Hmm.
practice.
Okay.
But the bereavement practices that we call them immediately thereafter. Within a day or two after the death,
Yeah.
and then mailings and follow up phone calls for months. And I offer this to a few people about
Oh,
6 months after.
okay. Gotcha.
Just because I feel like that they're in a little too much pain to
Hmm.
absorb it in the first couple of days.
That makes sense.
Yeah. One thing I'm thinking too, Nick, is you're going to a soccer game when we cut
Yeah.
off here.
Yep. I would will need to head off here soon. Yep.
Yes. So what you might want to do is while you're sitting there watching,
Hmm.
just kind of subversively take a look at your daughter and go through this process, not in the same deeply meditative way, but sort of subtly. I'm taking in your suffering. I envision your suffering. I bring it into me, and I bring out
Hmm.
my best fatherly intentions to you for your healing, daughter.
Yeah. I
You
like it.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, it
That's
can be very
beautiful.
beautiful. I do that.
Yeah. I think I do a little, but I'll notice that I'm doing it.
Beautiful.
There we go. Um, so we're gonna meet again. We're looking at 2 weeks.
Yeah, so
Kind
we're going to do another meditation.
of okay.
I
Okay.
have another meditation. It's kind of a bridge between this topic and the next topic.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah,
Awesome. Well,
we'll do a meditation
we'll
for
be
me.
chatting behind the scenes, preparing for it, of course, for anybody watching.
That's
I
right.
hope everybody who's found today helpful, found the modes of grief helpful. Continue to follow, share your thoughts, experiences in chat or comments afterward. Check out. We're gonna find a link for your Facebook group for the Brambled Path. I'll have to figure that
Oh,
out. Put it in here one of these days,
yeah.
so that anybody can tune in to your insights and shares on your Brambled Path Facebook group, and kind of keep this journey going. And it's very helpful. It's very restorative. For myself and I imagine for you to be a part of this community and this process. And I hope that if just one other person gets something from it, then this is all worth it. It's all good stuff.
1,000%. And whoever is watching this, feel free to comment. We love to hear from people.
All right.
Okay, young man. May your daughter win and her team win their game, and if not,
Awesome.
may they have a lovely time anyway.
It's their final spring game, so hopefully we go out with a win for until end of summer or fall. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Give us a like, subscribe, comment, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
Peace out, bro.
Peace out.